Hey everyone, welcome to Growing as an Evangelist. We call this podcast Amplify. Our goal is to amplify or to sharpen evangelists, and excited to be with you. My name's Aaron Holt. I'm here with my co-host Tim Enlow. Tim, how you doing today?
Howdy. Hey, we're doing great, Aaron. Great to see your mugshot today.
Yeah, I noticed that I think even our guest, who's Ty Buckingham, we'll introduce in a moment, but I think we all have like church merch or Christian merch on today.
We do.
Yeah, I got Lion of Judah. And you got Psalm 23, Tim. Ty, welcome to the show. We should introduce you first, but let's just go right to the merch. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing, I know, it's like one of those like red carpet. Who are you wearing today? I'm wearing Valley Co. They're actually a church plant with Elise Wood, who is, she does a lot of evangelism. Her and her husband, they just planted a church, 8 weeks ago. And I checked their church out a couple weeks ago, and I was there to support them, but I was really there for the free church merch, which is
there. You go, nice.
That's what I'm here for.
Elise has been a guest on the podcast as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Host, guest of the show, right? Love it.
Well, hey, this podcast is really all aimed towards people that are currently involved in evangelistic ministry. I mean, if you're not, it's not going to hurt you or anything like that. But at least I hope not. But it's kind of aimed towards the struggles, the challenges, the issues that we face ministering as an evangelist, both nationally and internationally, whatever that might look like in each ministry. And so, Ty, I just want to hop right in. A lot of evangelists talk about the greatest struggle that they face is open doors and opportunities.
Sure.
How have you confronted that issue? What has been the MO? God kind of leads people in different ways in figuring things like that out. But tell us your journey on that open doors and opportunities thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is, we've talked about this in the past. Like, my first ever couple opportunities were kind of, stewarded, to me, like they were kind of handed to me with actually by you. You handed me a couple opportunities my first year of ministry, and then I did some others. And number one, if you steward opportunity, you will get other opportunity. Like that's always, but that's, I think, kind of a known. But the other thing that I did, and thankfully I listened to you, Tim, again, was in Bible college, you said to write a book. And I remember calling you a fool. I was like, that's the dumbest idea ever. Like, why would I do that? Like, that's crazy. I have nothing to say on a topic. Like, everyone's already written out the topics. But then once I finally chilled out and wrote a book, and now we've written 3 of them, is for me, I think writing books opens up doors. Number one, because it gives you this title as an author, and it conveys to the people that you have more knowledge in a subject, or you at least took the time to convey it into a book and all that stuff. But also, what I think is great about it is that you can give that to pastors for free. Again, I did that for one way that really exploded the early parts of ministry was my first book, The Holy Spirit is on a Bird. I had it done, and I on a random Facebook pastors group for the Assemblies of God I posted this thing. And I said, hey, I have this new book about Holy Spirit. If you'd like to get it, if you're a pastor, just, comment below your name and address, and I'll send you one for free. And number one, that was not like the way you would do it now, like in a way, like just people just posting their personal addresses. That was just like, I can't believe anyone did it. But back then, I got super lucky. I had no idea what I was doing. Back then, the algorithm on Facebook was when someone would comment on a post, it would put that post at the top of the page. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I'd give away 9 books if I felt cool. And within a week and a half, we had over 400 pastors asking for the book. And so we gave out over 400 books. And this is
bankrupt that day.
What did you say, Aaron?
And you went bankrupt that day.
Yeah.
That was not to say that, really. Because I was like, okay, this will cost me $50. It'll be fine. It ended up, it was so many people. We actually had to like hire out a company to help us with this. It ended up costing us, well over $1,000 or $2,000 to send it all out. Granted, we got, to this day, this is real, I think a couple months ago, like 9 years after doing that, I still get pastors who reach out and say, hey, you sent me a book a couple years ago, 9 years ago, and there are 7 years ago. And they're like, hey, we want to have you speak. Like, it still happens to this day, which is crazy to me, craziness. And so I think it's also a great door opener for people who you haven't connected with yet. Of like, hey, I've seen your church. Love that you're killing it. Hey, this is really random. I had this book on this. I don't know if it'd be any interest of you, but if it is, I'd love to send it to you for free, because it's an easy ask. You're not asking them for anything in return. You're not saying, hey, give me this book, and if you read it, let's get a call and let's schedule an appointment or an event or whatever. It's just, it's one of those things like, man, like you will reap where you sow. And like, man, if you'll sow into a pastor and give them, hey, here's a resource. And genuinely, I do believe like especially like the Holy Spirit books are super great practicals for pastors. A lot of them have read it, like help them do sermon series out of them. Like you can take as many if you want. Like I've sent them to churches, and even not just one pastor, but I've sent it like, hey, if you have 10 on your staff, I'll send 10 or 15 books to your leaders, like however I can serve, because it costs no money for me. It's like $30-$50 or whatever, like to send some books, where then that can open up an opportunity. And worst case scenario, it expands my ministry in a more passive way where I'm helping people minister on something, even if I'm not there, which is the real longevity of ministry, is to do it without me having to be in the room. I think that stuff helps.
Yeah, you just hit it. That is the key, is that the call to ministry is not just serving my own corner of the kingdom, my own ministry. It's lifting ministry everywhere. It's the kingdom. And that is so key, Ty, because that creates something that God blesses automatically. And I love that about you, in the way that you're so generous with. Matter of fact, I believe you're so generous. If you would just put your debit and PIN number on the screen right now, I will. That would be great. No, but for real, I mean, this is something God blesses. And I've noticed a lot of times in mentoring and counseling other evangelists on this, that when they're like, hey, there's no open doors and there's no whatever. And I ask them, well, what are you doing? How are you helping the kingdom in general, even though it doesn't come back to you at all? Like, are you supporting the missionaries? Are you going preaching in the park? Are you, volunteering at your church? Are you whatever? And most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the answer is no, or very minimally. And I think that's a key, because it opens up the conduit through which God can bless you on that. I think that's a super key principle. But let's dive down a little bit, just real quick on this. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's a difference. Like, I think of this like weird illustration of like going to the park and throwing a boomerang versus a frisbee, kind of a thing. It's like frisbees are from person to person. Like if they take it, fine and whatever. But usually they're going to give it. It's a back and forth thing. But I think there are too many people. They're throwing out boomerangs. It's like, it's to look like it's going to you, but it's really, it's those kind of things are so obvious when you're just trying to grow your own thing. And so when you do, it's like, even if it doesn't feel selfless on the inside, if you force it enough time, you will become selfless, so. But yeah, what were you saying, Tim?
No, I want to drill down on the book thing. This may not be God's call for everyone, but in our mentoring program, the capstone of always is to write a book. And even if it's a terrible book, write a book. And it doesn't have to be a long book. Write a book, because it does a lot. It establishes you in a certain area, whatever the book may be. But share with me a little bit besides that, like some testimonies or some interactions that people have had with your books. Maybe places you've never been to before, and maybe will never go, where the books have gone, or whatever it might be. But how some other aspects of the blessing books have been for your ministry.
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, number one is it gives you this thing of every time people introduce me, it's never, hey, here's Ty as an evangelist. They always introduce me as Ty is an author. That's always what people do, almost all the time, maybe 95%. Almost, because people, when they say you're an author, like the truth is most people in America, they want to write a book. Less than 1% ever do. And so it already shows you that like, you're willing to put in the work. Like people like, oh, wow, this person means business. They know what they're doing or whatever. It kind of validates, the title a little bit, which is fine here or there. But it's definitely opened doors where people have heard about the book because it is effective and it is like well written. And we make sure it is, because we hire out editors and making sure it's good, because I don't know what I'm doing otherwise. It's opened up super like a ton of different doors, even doors to like different countries has happened, which is really crazy. We did an event once where a missionary was at an event and we gave them a book. And then a year and a half later, we found ourselves in China doing an event for somebody, which was just crazy, because they were like, they always like, hey, they wanted at the time a younger person. I barely count as that. I don't think I'm that anymore. I'm just a person. But they're like, hey, we want someone like, hey, we read your book. And it also was a way to kind of in a unique way, instead of sending someone, hey, here's a video of me preaching. No one's watching those, like just spoiler, no one watches those. But if you say, hey, here's a book, and they'll likely at least open it or read the back of it or be enticed by it. And if they like the content of the book, they'll usually like the content of you. The reality is what's really crazy to me is like I need to get better at this, and I need to watch other videos of growing as an evangelist to be like, I do not do great at like posting my preaching at all. Like there's very few videos, honestly, of me, except for like live streams of churches. But like I often am invited by pastors who have never heard me preach, but have only heard me through a book. And I don't know, it's crazy that works, but it works. And people do that all the time. And also just like, I get that not everyone can do this at different times, but like I definitely put as much resources I could in a responsible way into the book to make sure it looked good on the outside and read well on the inside. Because if we just try to do it in a kind of cheap, fast way, people can feel that and see that. But I have people who buy my books just because they look really cool on the outside, and we've gotten our money back from that many times. But the other thing too, without being weird about it, the reality too is my books radically support our ministry financially. They make up 40% of our ministry, of our budget.
Wow.
Kind of. And it's we do our things a little uniquely with that, but yeah, it's super helpful. So it's that kind of stuff. It's a win on every single front. So I tell every evangelist friend I have that doesn't have a book out, I lovingly mock them until the day they write one. Like they need to do it. You're missing out on things. And from the money thing, one last thing is like I'm gonna die eventually. Hopefully nothing soon, but whatever is like. But my son and my sons will benefit from my books as long as they keep going and they keep just making sure they're on Amazon. My kids will make money from my ministry now. And so it's just like this little things like that. I'm just like, why would I not but go into the longevity of things? Because either whether kids or money or anything, like I'm going to die. But books, that books live forever, Yeah. So, but it's real. It really is real.
You heard it here first, folks. You're going to die. Write a book.
That's
You're
right.
going to die.
Write a book.
Yeah. Aaron, let me ask you that because you have one book, right?
Yeah.
And your book is awesome, and I think it's
you're
about
stealing it from me, Psalm 23, and so thanks.
I know, really.
Appreciate that.
I didn't think about that until we started talking about books.
You're trolling me right now.
Yeah, but I mean, those things go places and benefit people. I mean, how has a book helped you?
Oh, a lot of the same things that Ty has expressed, as far as the opportunities that I think are presented to you. I think it's so norm now in our culture to have a website, to have clips of your preaching. It's easier than ever before. Like any 10-year-old with a phone can help you, figure some of those things out. I think a lot of American culture in particular still views the book writing process as this is a challenging process, and anyone that puts themselves to that level of work has a level or earns maybe a level of respect, or at least they're viewed as having an area of expertise in whatever that book is on, right? And so it does create additional or newer opportunities. There's a ton of great preachers out there now. I think there's probably higher quality communicators now than ever before, because we're able to learn from the best in ways that we never could before. You just jump on a podcast, jump on YouTube, you can for free listen to the top communicators in the world, and you can learn from that.
Yeah.
So I think that your ability to preach as an evangelist is almost like, that's foundational. That's baseline. You have to have that, right? But being an expert in certain areas that you've been able to take time to write a book on, it does provide an additional level of authority, maybe, or opportunity in some ways. Yeah. So I need to write another one. I feel convicted just listening to the two of you guys. I'm like, I got to come up with something here. But
I also love one thing that I think too that adds on to it, the ministry aspect of it. Of what I love, like we were talking about, a bunch of us. We do a lot of youth camps, all of us, or we, all that stuff, and just like what I love is like sometimes in any ministry we do, often we get at most like 45 minutes to speak, and even it's less and less as we as ministry goes. So most at 30 minutes, but it's like to get any topic done in like a 30-minute, 45-minute thing is so limiting. So a book like it expands the ministry that you have in a message, which is what I love, without even trying to push books to sell whatever. But it's like, hey, like we're going to talk about one aspect of Holy Spirit today, but we have a book, a resource for you that is all about the different aspects. So it kind of like, I think it also expands the ministry. So it's not just message limited. It's like it literally expands the message that you give. Sure.
Yeah.
That's
So
so
Ty,
good.
and we've got a couple minutes left here, but I want to shift gears a touch. I mean, so you've written multiple books. You've been an evangelist for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about how, your longevity as an evangelist, as well as the book writing, has opened up doors. You have a full schedule of ministry. Yet, I know you just moved. You have a 2-year-old son. You have named Moses. You have another son on the way who I think you're probably going to name Aaron because it just kind of works. Right?
That does work.
It does work. So talk to evangelists that are in a similar season as you, raising a family, young kids, a lot of transition because you just moved, right? Yet opportunity that could fill up your schedule quite full. Sure. How have you navigated that, you and your wife, to be balanced and to be healthy?
Yeah, I push everyone to do this. Very few people ever listen to me, but it's fine. Is we limit the amount of events we do every year. So for us, we have like it's kind of a soft cap, but it's like, so we do 40 events a year. So whether that's a Sunday morning or it's a week-long youth camp, that's one event. We do 40 a year. Anything above 40, so 40, I can do whatever, anyway, whatever. The calendar is mine. I can do whatever. But anything after and above 40, I go to my wife and I say, hey, this is the opportunity. This is what it would benefit others. And this is how it would benefit us as a family. Do I have your blessing to do this? Because number one, we very much view this ministry that we do together. When my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and so what she does for my son and my sons is she gives us the ability for me to go and do this thing. So we are doing ministry together regardless of what it looks like. And so I'm always asking permission to do it. And number one is it makes it so I'm under the blessing of the Lord, because my marriage ministry is way more important than the speaking ministry. It'll live it for all of time, for real. But it also, it helps everything. I think it helps with the balance. It helps with making sure we're doing things well. It also doesn't over exhaust one year's calendar to make the next year's calendar emptier. Like, there's a benefit of like, hey, this area is full, so that it helps push things to the following year or the following quarter, right? So that it kind of creates a snowball of longevity effect. Like on a really practical level, like I'm trying to, because I'm still new. I feel like all the time, still growing as a ministry all the time. But it's like my goal is by December of this year to have all of next year fully, scheduled out, so that number one, I'm not stressing about trying to fill a calendar in that year, but also so that my family knows how to plan about our lives and stuff like that. But I think the truth is, and I get it, like it's really cool looking, and I do it. We all do it. Is like we all post our ministry's calendars. That's what we do. I get it. I need to do it more. But when I see calendars that are so full, where it's 20 events in a month, that all I ever see personally is I see a really lonely spouse at home, and I'm like, or family of kids who are really wishing their parents were home more. Like, it's really cool to travel 20 times or whatever. And there are seasons, like camp seasons coming up. I am gone a lot in June. Like that just happens every year. But we are aware of that as a family. So we prepare where we go hard on the beginning or hard in the end of like family vacation stuff to make sure our tanks are full. But I always tell people that, your ministry as a spouse should always outlast and be more important than your ministry as a preacher. Because like you said, Aaron, there are so many good preachers, but there are, it's the cheesy line, but it's true. Like I'm the only one who can be a good husband to my wife. And so I want to push that as hard as I can.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, we appreciate you, Ty, and are so thankful for your ministry. What's if someone wants to connect up with you, what's website and home address and
home address. I'm currently homeless right now.
Yeah,
because we sold our home and we're looking for a house. I'm in my parents' house. I'm in my little brother's room, which is why there's a boxing thing, which I know, whatever.
And I thought you're getting ready to work out. Like
I know, it looks like I'm trying to get swole. I am out of shape. But TyBuckingham.com or at Ty Buckingham on all social. If I can help anyone do anything, let me know. We'll talk for sure.
Yeah, and Ty loves to send free books, so just hit him.
I do. Yeah, Aaron loves to give my stuff away. If you would like one of my books and you can't afford it, or even if you can, you're like, hey, I want to take Ty's provision away. message me. I'll send you some free books. Thank you, Aaron Holt. Love that.
There you go. That's so great. Man, this has been great. Ty, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Amplify, Growing as an Evangelist. And all of you that are subscribers to the YouTube channel, thanks for subscribing. Make sure you hit that button if you haven't, because we would love for you to check out new episodes that are coming out. Feel free to share this with a friend, with another evangelist, with an evangelist that you have that hasn't written a book, so they can, be trolled by Ty a little bit.
Sure,
Please
do this.
Absolutely. So we will see you on our next episode. Thanks for joining us.